I have so much respect for him, professionally and personally, what he's accomplished, his work, what he does, the choices that he makes.
He just believes he can, you know. He just fully immerses himself in his work and just won't take no for an answer, you know.
He loves doing this, so he's so excited, then you're so excited, and he's infectious.
Oh, God, help me.
Rosie O'Donnell may be Tom's most famous fan, but she's certainly not the only one.
We're all in this together. It's, you know, pieces of it can work in 1 second, finish.
Tom's fame has already inspired countless biographies, including Tom Cruise, Overcoming Adversity, My Feeling Pal.
He has a gentle charisma. His obvious good looks draw people to him. He does things that are daring. He does things that are brave, and he also comes across as a very caring person.
Here are the basic facts about Tom Cruise. He was born Thomas Cruise Mapother IV on July 3rd, 1962. His birthplace? Syracuse, New York. Tom suffers from dyslexia, a learning disability which affects short-term memory, concentration, and organization.
His mother and his sisters were dyslexic, so it seems to have been an inherited trait where Tom would look at words and numbers and they would have no meaning for him.
Raised a Catholic, he spent a year studying at a Franciscan monastery where he could have continued and become a priest. As an adult, Tom turned to Scientology. In high school, Tom was an avid wrestler, but after an injury, he turned to drama.
The only saving grace actually was this freak accident when he was wrestling gave him the chance to be in a play at school, Guys and Dolls. The wrestling was gone, the theater was started, and once he was on stage, it was like the magic moment.
Theater sparked another interest for Tom, people.
I never find people normal, I just don't. I think everyone has their own story to tell, their own unique story. Even if they think, oh, my life is so boring, you start talking to people and they're all so different.
Observation helps Tom connect with moviegoers, and that translates into big box office. His movies have racked up more than $1 billion. Tom's film debut was Endless Love, starring Brooke Shields. On his next picture, Taps, he impressed the producers so much, they expanded his part. He also appeared in The Outsiders, Losing It, and All the Right Moves. But it was 1983's Risky Business that really put the spotlight on Tom.
Risky Business. Every guy pictures himself home alone in their underwear with the music cranked up, just belting out and sliding along, and I think the women enjoyed that a lot too.
After Risky Business, Tom Cruise was a bankable star. That didn't help director Ridley Scott's epic fantasy, Legend, which tanked at the box office. Fortunately, Tom also made Top Gun with Ridley's brother, Tony Scott. The flyboy love story was a huge hit and made Tom an all-out star.
The movie role of Maverick in the movie Top Gun was a turning point for Tom Cruise because it was the movie that drew the largest audience of men and women.
After Top Gun, Tom could write his own ticket, and he began working with some impressive co-stars and directors, including Paul Newman in Martin Scorsese's The Color of Money, Brian Brown in Cocktail, and Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man.
One of the best disguises I've ever had in my life was Tom Cruise, because when I made Rain Man, nobody looked at me. Nobody recognized me. It was wonderful. So I know now if I ever want to walk down the street and never be bothered, I just call up Tom and say, take a walk with me.
While Cruise was delighting his female fans with the Hippie Hippie Shake and Cocktail, he took himself off the Bachelor list by marrying and later divorcing actress Mimi Rogers. On screen, Tom was busier than ever. He was front and center for Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July, the true story of Vietnam War veteran Ron Kovic. 1990's Days of Thunder reunited Cruise with his Top Gun director Tony Scott and introduced him to Nicole Kidman. While critics would quickly dismiss the movie, Tom and Nicole would fascinate the press for years. They married later that year. Nicole wasn't the only new woman in Tom's life. In 1990, he hired Pat Kingsley, Hollywood's top PR expert, who would take control of Tom's image and fortify the front lines of his battle for privacy. Action! Tom and Nicole teamed up on screen again after Cruise convinced director Ron Howard to cast Kidman in Far and Away. Tom plays an Irish American who takes up boxing for a living. Tom's next movie was A Few Good Men, a military courtroom drama co-starring Jack Nicholson, featuring an early performance by Cuba Gooding Jr. After A Few Good Men, Cruise took on another legal drama, The Firm, based on John Grisham's best-selling novel. But the draw for Tom was director Sidney Pollack.
Cruise is, it's impossible to analyze why people are stars or what it is that makes somebody a star. All you can do is talk about certain elements that they might have. But I think one of the things, aside from being immensely likable always on screen, I think you do feel that you know him in a certain way.
At this point, Tom could have any movie role he wanted, except Interview with the Vampire. Tom wanted to play the vampire Lestat, but Vampire's author Anne Rice didn't fancy him in the role and said so publicly. Tom eventually prevailed and got the part. Off-screen, Tom and Nicole adopted a daughter. As a new dad, Tom got to show off his love of kids on the set of Jerry Maguire, sharing a few scenes with child star Jonathan Little.
On the set with Tom Cruise, I sing, goodness gracious, great balls of fun.
Jerry Maguire also reunited Tom with A Few Good Men's Cuba Gooding Jr.
Two unemployed actors. Look at it, two unemployed actors. Oh, yeah.
Is there a good chance that you and Tom might work together?
I hope so. I'd love that. He knows he'd call me to do anything. I'd be the camera operator in one of his movies.
Director Cameron Crowe was also eager to work with Tom again.
Such a great experience with working with him. You know, he's the best, and he completely honors your script and wants to serve every word that you've written. So how can you not want a rematch with a guy like that?
Crowe would eventually have his rematch with Cruise, but first Tom wanted to explore other areas of filmmaking. He formed his own production company and produced a big screen remake of the TV classic Mission Impossible.
Now let me just see how I should enter. I'm going to do it like this, okay?
As a producer, Cruise called the shots and decided to do his own stunts after a little prompting from director Brian De Palma.
I could see that he was really worried, and he comes over to me and he looks at me and he says, "I'm just an actor."
I remember doing that scene, and they blew the tanks out, and, you know, before I did it, you know, everyone's a little nervous. The guy came up to me, you know, he said, "Look, you know, I'm going to count to 3. He said, "Don't go on 3.5. He said, I'll be watching you, but I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, that's when I'm going to do it, okay?" And I said, "Hold it. 1, 2, 3, go, or 1, 2, go." Just 1, 3, just say 3 should be go to you, you know. And I just remember that tank exploding and glass flying everywhere.
Tom's next project would take more than 2 years to complete, but for Cruise it was worth it. The movie was Eyes Wide Shut, and he got to work with a director he idolized, the legendary Stanley Kubrick. The movie was also another opportunity to work with his wife, Nicole Kidman. Critics weren't so impressed with the results, and the movie about marriage and sexual betrayal had a short run. But a bigger blow was the death of Stanley Kubrick shortly before the premiere.
Stanley never judged people. He didn't judge people, and I think that it's reflected in his characters. And as a filmmaker, that he almost invites the audience. He doesn't almost, he invites the audience to participate.
Tom kept his cool about the bad reviews, but a tabloid report during production got him mad enough to fight back. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman have some very intimate moments in Eyes Wide Shut, but during production, a tabloid reported the couple needed a therapist to help with the sex scenes. For Tom, always a private person, this crossed the line, and he instructed his lawyers to fight back. The tabloid backed down, printed a retraction, and agreed to make a donation to a charity of Tom and Nicole's choosing. Cruise had better luck with his next 2 projects. For Magnolia, he won a Golden Globe, as well as Screen Actors Guild and Oscar nominations. And Mission Impossible 2 turned out to be a major hit at the box office. Despite the public success, Tom's private life was faltering. He and Nicole eventually separated, and Tom filed for divorce in February of 2001. The couple still had one joint venture in the works, the hit ghost story The Others, which Tom produced and Nicole starred in. At the premiere, Tom had nothing but praise for his ex.
I've always been a fan of her work, even before we were together. I think she has enormous talent. I've always believed in her talent, and when I read the script, I wanted her to play this role. It's a tour de force character, and you know, I knew she'd be great in it.
Another tabloid scandal erupted in 2001. A German magazine reprinted an alleged interview with a gay porn star named Kyle Bradford. The article claims Kyle and Tom had an affair, which in turn led to Tom's divorce. Cruise immediately filed suit against Bradford for $100 million, stating in the lawsuit he is not and has never been a homosexual. Bradford repeatedly denied ever giving the interview and said he'd never met Cruise. But in the end, the porn star decided he couldn't fight the lawsuit and said he would file for bankruptcy if Cruise's lawyers persisted. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise was busy in front of the cameras. He reteamed with Jerry Maguire director Cameron Crowe for Vanilla Sky. The movie is based on a Spanish film called Open Your Eyes.
Cameron, even though Vanilla Sky is not a remake of Open Your Eyes, I like the way Cameron describes it. It's a cover of a great song.
Shortly after production wrapped, Tom started dating his co-star Penelope Cruz. Both have busy international careers. In fact, Tom began work on Minority Report almost immediately. The sci-fi thriller was directed by Steven Spielberg. After the futuristic thriller, Tom had only a short time to prepare for The Last Samurai.
He plays a Civil War captain sent to Japan to teach the Emperor's troops how to use guns, but ends up learning the ways of the samurai.
It's a privilege to be able to make these films. It's a privilege to be able to do what I'm doing. I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy delving into the characters and the structure and the story.
In 2004, Tom's personal and professional life underwent major changes. His love affair with Penelope ended because their busy schedules didn't give them enough time together. Tom also dismissed his publicist of 14 years, Pat Kingsley, and gave the job to his sister, Leanne DeVette. On screen, Tom began choosing edgier roles. With the production of Mission Impossible 3 pushed back, he had the opportunity to work with director Michael Mann on the thriller Collateral.
3, 2, 1, action! And cut!
I am nothing if not committed when I'm doing something. And I felt that level and more kind of commitment from Michael Mann.
He's a great committed actor. He works hard. We all work hard, you know, and that's what he does, you know, and he and I wanted to work together for a long time, so it finally happened.
Tom plays the bad guy, a ruthless contract killer who hijacks a taxi and its driver, Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, that's it. You don't act alone, you know, it's really together. You're creating this, and I looked over at Michael Mann, and you know, you can see when Michael Mann says something was working, you know, you can just feel it off Michael.
Tom has never played a character like this, and so it became a really interesting proposition. I mean, it's just so dynamic about it to have Tom do a villain and to have him do an antagonist and not do it with half measures, but to really go all the way to become a very bad man.
My briefcase? I don't know. It's your briefcase? Yeah, it is. Why? No. Yeah.
To play a sociopath, Tom relied on the same method he always does, observation.
I'm always, you know, I go out, I'm always talking to people and meeting people and looking at people, so there's always different ideas that I get, different behavior, and just learning about life, learning about people, and you understand those kind of personal choices.
Tom's performance earned praise from critics, but Tom quickly moved on to another project. Still with time on his hands before Mission Impossible 3, he and director Steven Spielberg rushed a remake of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds into production. For the first time, Tom plays a family man, but screenwriter David Koepp decided he would make the character a variation on one Tom had played before.
I thought it would be interesting to try and, you know, picture his character from Top Gun and say he developed a drinking problem and got thrown out of the Air Force, and his wife left him and his kids hate him, and he's kind of bitter and a jerk as a result. That would be an interesting character to see him play. You know, 20 years later, what's this guy like in his early 40s when things have not gone the way he thought they should?
War of the Worlds was touted as a summer blockbuster, but Cruise would make more headlines that season for his offbeat behavior. jumping on a sofa on the Oprah Winfrey Show to proclaim his love for Katie Holmes, arguing with Matt Lauer on the Today Show about the benefits of psychology, and proposing to Miss Holmes on the Eiffel Tower, all served to overshadow his new film, prompting a question at a War of the Worlds press conference.
Are you stung or puzzled by criticism that love and religion might have distracted from the movie and your exuberance?
No. No. No, I listen, I really don't pay attention to it. I don't really, it doesn't bother me.
Tom's pre-release notoriety had limited effect on War of the Worlds, which opened strongly. In fact, the grosses for the debut weekend were a personal best for Cruise. Next up, Tom finally started work on Mission Impossible 3, the action thriller sequel, which Tom produced.
Let's go, guys. Gotta roll.
My intention and my hope is always to have a more personal aspect to the picture, because it's also, action is fine. Action was actually the last thing that we talked about with Mission Impossible. It's not the first thing. We didn't talk about action sequences. We actually made an agreement not to discuss any action sequences at all until we nailed the story.
Mission Impossible 3 co-stars Billy Crudup, Michelle Monaghan, and Lawrence Fishburne appreciated Cruise's attitude on set.
He's just really invested in having as good a time with the whole thing as he possibly can. I think he really found something with this particular franchise that allows him to use all of his strengths.
He's amazing, and he's just a really incredible guy. He's probably one of the most present actors I've ever worked with.
He makes the stakes very high. He's fully committed, so you don't have to do much when you're acting beside him except observe the behavior that he's putting himself through.
Mission Impossible 3 was the second film in 2006 to pass the $100 million mark at the box office. Tom attended the premiere with his fiancée, Katie Holmes. Holmes had just given birth to their baby girl. Katie and Tom were married 7 months later. Mission Impossible 3 was Cruise's final production with Paramount Pictures. Then, under the United Artists label, he produced the drama Lions for Lambs. Meryl Streep co-stars and Robert Redford directed.
I feel very fortunate this first film for UA, but I also wanted a picture that was going to define what I believe is the spirit of United Artists, which is just that, United Artists. So I don't think there could have been a more perfect film for the new United Artists.
It is a film about making the right choices, but it's also a film about how easy it is not to make a choice at all. Just to go to a dinner party and bark about what you think politically. This buddy, this is this person's fault, and not do anything about it yourself.
Lions for Lambs is about incompetent leaders sending soldiers into battle. For Robert Redford, Cruise was the right choice to play the senator.
There's a certain intensity and energy which he has. And he has it in very high volume, and I thought that was something that could work very well because he's very all-American looking, he's very youthful looking, he's good looking, and he is somebody that you could see charming people, even if he was charming them with the wrong idea.
What attracted me to it was that it was a piece of film that didn't tell me how to think. It invited me to participate.
Lions for Lambs has been referred to as a box office bomb. It was one of Tom's worst openings, and reportedly he didn't get along with Streep and Redford. In 2008, Tom released a historical thriller, Valkyrie, about a plot to assassinate Adolf Hitler. Co-stars Kenneth Branagh and Eddie Izzard attended the premiere.
It's a great story for people to see, because it does show people standing up and being counted at a time when it was really difficult to do that. People just disappeared. People would just, I mean, my character talks about it. They'll pull you apart like warm bread.
And as intense as the, as the film is with, the suspense and the history of it, we had a great time making it.
Co-star Kenneth Branagh liked working with Tom.
That he was very generous, and he made that generosity work for himself and for everyone. He was very open and very able at this sort of distinguished stage in his career to really continue to enjoy it and convey that sense of enjoyment. So he helps create a tremendously positive spirit on set.
There were difficulties filming Valkyrie on location in Germany because Cruise is a Scientologist, which is viewed as a cult by German authorities. But the movie was well reviewed worldwide. 2 years after Valkyrie, Tom made an action comedy, Night and Day, co-starring Cameron Diaz. Tom Cruise has said that he gives filmmaking everything. His career spanning 30 years is a testament of that philosophy.
I enjoy what I do, and that's the fun of it for me. And to have the opportunities that I have is something that is incredibly rare and special, and it's something I've always felt I don't want to take advantage of that, and I want to keep pushing myself, and I'm interested in growing, and I'm interested in being diverse.
Thank you for watching this Tom Cruise edition of MovieStar. Join us next time for another inside look at your favorite stars of the big screen.